Arsenal are 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League. 9 games to go. Two separate but deeply connected stories are defining this club right now. One is about the glory that could be coming. The other is about the quiet tension building beneath the surface. Both matter enormously to what happens between now and the end of May. And right now, every decision, every selection, every public word from inside that dressing room carries weight that most people are not fully appreciating. Let us start where the attention belongs. Arsenal beat Chelsea 2-1 at the Emirates Stadium on Sunday. That result was not just 3 points, it was a statement. It was confirmation that this squad has the mental strength to perform under pressure when the pressure is at its most intense. Chelsea came to North London with something to prove. They left with nothing, and Arsenal stood 5 points clear at the summit of English football. Now, here is where it gets genuinely fascinating, because the story of this title race is not just about what is happening in 2026. It is about what happened in 1998. And when you place those two moments side by side, what you find is a comparison that should give every Arsenal supporter reason to believe, but also reason to stay sharp. On the 2nd of March 1998, Arsène Wenger's Arsenal were not top of the Premier League. They were second. They were 9 points behind Manchester United. 9 points in modern football terms, that is a canyon. That is an almost impossible gap to close. And yet, what followed was one of the most extraordinary title run-ins in the history of English football. Arsenal went on a 10-game winning run. They did not just close the gap, they obliterated it. They stole the title from Sir Alex Ferguson's grasp in a manner that still feels almost mythical when you read back through it. After suffering a 3-1 defeat to Blackburn Rovers in mid-December of 1997, the Gunners won 17 of their next 19 games, drawing 3. The only defeats after that run came in their final 2 fixtures of the season against Liverpool and Aston Villa. Games that were played after the title had already been secured. That is the caliber of performance that Wenger extracted from that squad. Now sit with that for a moment, because the situation today is dramatically different. And dramatically better. This Arsenal side are not 9 points behind anyone. They are 5 points ahead. They are the team in front. They are the team everyone else is chasing. The comparison between the two moments is not just flattering to Arteta's squad. It is evidence of how far this club has come in its development under a manager who joined when the project was still being built from the foundations. The question every serious analyst has to ask is this. Does the current squad have the same competitive mentality that Wenger's 1998 side demonstrated? Do they have the capacity to sustain a winning run over 9 games the way the iconic team did? Because the answer to that question is, what separates a beautiful season from a legendary one? Before we go deeper into that, if you are watching this channel for serious football analysis without the noise and without the hype, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists to break down the reality of what is happening at Arsenal, not to sell you a dream, and not to traffic in panic. Just analysis, hit subscribe, and let us keep going. The mathematics of this title race are critical to understand. The maximum number of points Manchester City can reach at this stage, assuming they win every remaining game, including the fixture against Arsenal at the Etihad Stadium in April, is 89. That is their ceiling. Arsenal's ceiling is 91. Again, assuming they take maximum points, including that same game at City. But here is the number that matters most. If Arsenal win at the Etihad, City's maximum possible points total falls to 86. That single result, that one afternoon in April, could effectively end the title race as a genuine contest. Arsenal need 23 points from their remaining 9 fixtures to guarantee the title based on the scenario where they defeat City. That works out to roughly 7 wins and 2 draws from 9 games. For a squad that just dismantled Chelsea at home and put 4 past Leeds United earlier in the campaign, that is a target well within reach. It is not comfortable. Nothing in a title race is comfortable, but it is absolutely achievable. The 1998 Arsenal side was built around a specific kind of excellence. Dennis Bergkamp was the creative engine of that team, finishing as the club's top scorer across all competitions with 22 goals. His combination of technical brilliance, intelligent movement, and ice-cold finishing made him almost impossible to contain. Behind him, Tony Adams led one of the most organised and physically imposing backlines English football had seen in years. That combination of creative genius at the top and defensive certainty at the back gave Wenger's team a balance that allowed them to grind out results when the performances were not flowing and dominate when they were. What is interesting is that Arteta's squad is being asked to perform a similar kind of balancing act, but in a far more complex competitive environment. The 1998 side were competing purely for the Premier League and the FA Cup. They won the double, they won the cup by beating Newcastle United 2-0 in the final at Wembley. It was a complete domestic triumph. The reality for Arteta's current squad is that they are still fighting on 4 fronts simultaneously. They remain active in the FA Cup. They have a League Cup final to come. They are in the last 16 of the Champions League. And they are leading the Premier League by 5 points with 9 games remaining. The sheer volume of high-stakes fixtures between now and the final weeks of the season is enormous. And that is where the depth of the squad becomes not just a nice-to-have, but an absolute necessity. Which brings us directly to the second story, the one about Riccardo Calafiori. And this is where the analysis gets uncomfortable, because the facts here point to a problem that Arteta has not yet fully resolved. Calafiori arrived at Arsenal in July 2024. The fee paid to Bologna was £42 million. It is worth noting that at the time of his signing, Juventus were heavily expected to win the race for his services. Arsenal moved decisively and secured him. At the point of his arrival, the signing looked like genuine business. A 22-year-old Italian international who could operate convincingly as a centre-back or at left-back, versatile enough to provide cover across the back line, and technically developed enough to fit Arteta's ball-playing defensive style. In the first half of this season, that investment appeared justified. Calafiori was a regular in the starting 11. He was contributing, he was part of the system. Then he picked up a muscle injury. And what happened after his recovery has changed the entire conversation around his future at the club. He has not come off the bench in either of Arsenal's recent Premier League victories over Tottenham Hotspur or Chelsea. Not come off the bench. Those are 2 of the biggest domestic results of the season. And Calafiori was effectively invisible in both. That is not an injury absence. That is a selection decision. And selection decisions of that nature send a very clear message, both to the player and to the outside world. The reason for his disappearance from the picture is specific and needs to be understood clearly. Piero Hincapié, who joined Arsenal on loan, has stepped into the left-back role and has impressed to the extent that the club is expected to trigger his permanent signing for £45 million at the end of his loan spell. That is a significant commitment of resources in a position that Calafiori was brought in to fill. It creates an obvious tension. Add to that situation the emergence of Miles Lewis-Skelly, who is also competing for minutes in the same left-back position. And the reality for Calafiori becomes even more difficult. He cannot simply pivot to centre-back as a solution, because Gabriel and William Saliba have those positions locked down. They are 2 of the best central defenders in the Premier League right now, and neither is losing their place. There is no pathway in that direction. So Calafiori finds himself in a position that many players at big clubs eventually face, expensive enough that the club does not want to lose him cheaply, talented enough that selling him does not make footballing sense, but underused enough that the player himself is starting to make his feelings known in public. The words he used when speaking to Calcio Mercato are worth analysing carefully. He said he would like to return to Roma sooner or later. He acknowledged that he cannot plan his career right now, but the sentiment was clear. He has emotional ties to Roma. He left the club before he felt that chapter was finished. He spoke about wanting to celebrate in front of the Curva Sud, which for anyone who understands Italian football culture tells you exactly how much that connection still means to him. It is also important to understand the background here. Calafiori moved from Roma to FC Basel on loan in August 2022. That loan eventually became a permanent move. He described the situation at Roma as not going as he had hoped for reasons he did not fully elaborate on. The departure clearly left something unresolved for him emotionally. And now finding himself in a similar position of reduced minutes and uncertain status at Arsenal, those feelings are naturally resurfacing. His contract at Arsenal runs until June 2029. That means the club holds the power in any negotiation about his future. He is not going to walk out. He is not in a position to force a transfer. But the public comments he has made, reported through Calcio Mercato, are a first signal. These things tend to escalate if the underlying situation does not change. The evidence suggests that the summer of 2027 is the most likely inflection point. By that stage, if Hincapié has signed permanently and Luis Skelly has continued to develop, Calafiori will have spent 2 full years as a peripheral figure. At that point, the conversation about his departure becomes much more realistic, even with 4 years remaining on his deal. For now, though, the more immediate concern is what this situation means for the squad's cohesion and morale during the most important stretch of the season. A player who is not getting minutes, who is publicly hinting at wanting to return to a former club, who was not even trusted to come off the bench in a North London derby or in a top-of-the-table clash, is a player who needs careful management. Arteta is known for his attention to detail in this area. How he handles Calafiori over the next few weeks will say something important about his ability to manage the human side of running a squad competing on 4 fronts. And Calafiori is not the only player in this situation. The situation at right back is also developing into a genuine concern. Ben White has also found himself short of starts, and the frustration on his side of the dressing room is no longer hidden. Clubs including Everton and Newcastle United have registered their interest in the England international. It is worth being precise here. Those are reported interests, not confirmed offers, not completed transfers. It remains at the level of speculation. But where there is smoke, there is fire. And the fact that White's name is being connected to moves away from the Emirates Stadium is itself a signal that something is not right. To address the potential departure of White, Arsenal have been linked with a number of options. Mateuzinho of Corinthians is one name that has emerged. Again, this is a reported link, not a confirmed interest, not a done deal. Other names being circulated include Tino Livramento, Michael Coyote, and Ivan Fresneda. Every single one of those links carries the same caveat. They are rumors, they are not confirmed, they should be treated as such until there is concrete evidence of formal negotiations. What is not a rumor is the broader structural challenge that these situations represent. Arsenal are at the peak of their domestic season. They are leading the Premier League. They have a League Cup final approaching. They are still in the FA Cup and the Champions League. The last thing Arteta needs right now is noise around players who are unhappy with their game time. The last thing the squad needs is the distraction of open speculation about departures. And yet, this is the reality of managing a squad at the top level. You need 25 to 30 competitive players to sustain a campaign across 4 competitions, but you can only play 11 at a time. And the players not in those 11 have careers, have ambitions, have agents, have emotional connections to other clubs. Managing all of that while simultaneously trying to win a Premier League title is perhaps the hardest part of what Arteta does. It is invisible work. It happens in training ground offices and quiet conversations. It rarely makes the headlines, but it determines whether the squad holds together when the season reaches its most demanding phase. Now go back to the 1998 comparison and consider it through this lens. Wenger's title-winning side also had internal tensions, also had players frustrated by selection, also had agents working in the background on future deals. The difference was that Wenger was able to create such a powerful collective belief in what they were doing that individual frustrations became secondary to the shared goal. The story of that season is ultimately a story about a manager who galvanized a group of players at exactly the right moment and directed all of their energy toward a single outcome. What Arteta is trying to do in 2026 is structurally more complex, but spiritually the same. He needs to take a squad with depth, with talent, with ambition, with some internal friction, and focus all of it toward winning the Premier League. He needs the players like Calafiori who are not featuring to remain professionally committed and ready. He needs the players who are featuring to maintain the form that has delivered 5 points of breathing room at the top of the table. The 1998 side had ex-captain Tony Adams as their defensive leader, a player who embodied everything the club stood for and who helped hold the group together through difficult moments. The current squad has William Saliba, who scored his first goal of the season in the Chelsea victory on Sunday, as one of several players who appear to be stepping into that leadership role from the back. Saliba's contribution in that result was not just the goal, it was the assurance he provides every time Arsenal are under pressure. the manner in which he deals with direct attacks, the speed with which he reads danger, the calm he projects under scrutiny. Those qualities are becoming as important to this Arsenal team as Adams was to the 1998 side. The next test is already on the horizon, a midweek trip to Brighton. The Seagulls host Arsenal on Wednesday evening. On that same night, Manchester City face Nottingham Forest at home. The dynamic of those two simultaneous fixtures is fascinating. City will be expected to win, but Arsenal have an opportunity to put pressure on them before a ball is kicked at the Etihad. Simply by winning at Brighton and going 8 points clear heading into the weekend, every time Arsenal win before City play, City feel the weight of having to respond. That psychological pressure accumulates over time. It is one of the underrated factors in any title run-in. Brighton are a dangerous side. They will press aggressively. They will demand precision from Arsenal in tight spaces. They will test the squad's ability to perform on a Wednesday evening after the emotional intensity of the Chelsea victory. These are exactly the kind of fixtures that can unravel a title challenge if a team is not mentally sharp. They are also exactly the kind of fixtures that define champions. That evidence from this season suggests that Arteta's squad has the quality to handle them. The 4-0 win over Leeds United, the 4-1 destruction of Tottenham Hotspur, the controlled victory over Chelsea. These were not fortunate results. These were the results of a team that understands what it is doing and executes at a high level consistently. There is a version of this season that ends in genuine Arsenal legend, a version where Arteta's squad wins the Premier League and does so while also adding further silverware in the cup competitions. The article written about this team in years to come, in the way that people still write about the 1998 double winners and the 2004 Invincibles, is there to be written, but it requires the squad to stay focused. It requires Arteta to manage the internal tensions around players like Calafiori and White with the same precision he applies to his tactical preparation. It requires the players who are featuring to maintain their levels across a relentless schedule of fixtures in multiple competitions. And it requires the kind of belief that turns 9 games from the end of a season, from a challenge into an inevitability. The 1998 side did it from a position of being 9 points behind. They came from second place, and they ran down one of the greatest managers the game has ever seen. This current Arsenal side do not have to come from behind. They are already out front. They already hold the advantage. They already have the superior points total and the more manageable ceiling to chase. The question is not whether they can do what the 1998 team did. The question is whether they can do something even simpler, whether they can hold what they have already built, protect what they have already earned, and finish what they have already started. The facts say the position is excellent. The fixtures are challenging but manageable. The squad is deep enough, the players are talented enough, and the manager has shown across the course of this season that he has the tactical intelligence and the man management skill to take this group of players to the destination they have been building toward for 3 years. 9 games. That is all that stands between this Arsenal squad and a first Premier League title since 2004. Everything that happens between now and the end of May, every training session, every selection decision, every quiet conversation between Arteta and a frustrated squad player, every set piece worked on in preparation for Brighton, everything points toward those 9 games. And what they could mean for this football club. The stakes could not be higher. The moment could not be more significant. And right now, Arsenal are exactly where they need to be.